A prince has to control the illusion of strength. Because you see, power doesn't just collapse in some big, dramatic scream. It collapses in stages. And the most dangerous stage, well, it's the one that just looks like political noise, right up until it's too late. Machiavelli warned us about this centuries ago. Public weakness is fatal. It's like a signal in the wild that turns your own pack into predators. And the key word there is illusion. The second that shatters, the entire game changes. Now, you might think the threat is obvious, right? It must be coming from the Democrats. But that's not what we're talking about here. The immediate threat to Donald Trump's power, it's not coming from his political opponents. It's much, much closer to home. The fire started inside his own house. And that changes everything, because internal fractures are the ones leaders never see coming, not until the walls themselves start to crumble around them. So where did the first crack appear? It wasn't loud. It didn't make headlines everywhere. It began quietly, almost invisibly, when the Supreme Court of the United States made a decision that narrowed Donald Trump's tariff authority. It was a legal ruling, sure, but it was also a psychological line in the sand. And here's the part you really have to pay attention to. His own party didn't circle the wagons. They didn't rush to his defense. Instead, some Republicans publicly praised the very court that limited his power. They used this phrase, constitutional balance. Think about what that really means. It means choosing the institution over the man. That is a signal.
And Donald Trump's response? It wasn't a policy discussion. It was a furious, raw reassertion of dominance. But here's the thing. When a leader has to shout about the power he has right after it's been publicly checked, well, who is he really trying to convince?
Now, all of this might look like random political chaos, but it's not. This is a pattern, a predictable, almost textbook sequence of power erosion that Machiavelli identified hundreds of years ago. See, power doesn't just break, it erodes. It happens in phases. First, loyalty weakens behind closed doors. Then you start hearing public questions about authority. And finally, his own allies start to test the limits. They start to push. And from what we're seeing, we are well past phase 1. And that brings us to the testing the limits phase, happening in real time, right out in the open. This is where those quiet signals start to get really, really loud. Take a look at this. The Justice Department had made a clear promise on the record. If the tariffs were found to be unlawful, refunds would be issued. Simple. But then, when Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent was asked about it, he didn't give a direct order. He created a procedural fog. He said the ruling was narrow, that it wasn't really up to him, that a decision might take weeks or months. This is not the language of strength. It's the language of containment. And this is exactly what Machiavelli warned about. Procedural fog isn't a strategy for command. It's a tactic for buying time when you can't control the outcome. It's hesitation. And in the world of power, hesitation is contagious. Suddenly, these internal fractures, this quiet hesitation, it stops being just whispers. It starts showing up in cold, hard data. You can see it in polling and in economic reports. A 60% national disapproval rating, that's more than just a bad number. It's a psychological threshold. It normalizes opposition. It lowers the risk for anyone thinking of speaking out. And that critical aura of invincibility that a leader like Donald Trump relies on for obedience, it just starts to fade. But this slide, this right here, might be the most dangerous number of all for him. A majority of his own base now says Republican lawmakers do not have to support his agenda if they disagree. This isn't just criticism. This is his base giving his own party permission to defy him. Loyalty is officially optional. And then the economic consequences begin to hit home. The narrative control starts to slip, and the pain becomes visible for everyone to see, even on friendly media outlets like Fox News. When 15,000 farms disappear in a single year, and that pain is concentrated in loyal regions like Texas, loyalty itself becomes conditional. Farmers were a symbolic pillar of his support. Now, their suffering is being broadcast to the nation. So, this stage of decay always leads to a critical choice. History shows that from this point, there are 3 common and very dangerous paths forward. So what happens next? Path 1, the leader doubles down, becomes even more aggressive, trying to reassert dominance through sheer force. Path 2, the party quietly begins to detach, protecting itself, planning for its own survival. Or path 3, the economic pain simply becomes too great, and it forces a split. You see, Machiavelli warned that external attacks are manageable. They can actually unite a base, create a powerful us versus them rally cry. That's not the real threat. The true danger, the moment of mortal peril, is the quiet internal recalculation. It's when your own allies start planning for a world where you are no longer necessary. That planning happens in private, but the signals are always public. All of this leads to one chilling question that no one in power ever wants to ask out loud. Because a ruler can survive being hated. What he cannot survive is being seen as unnecessary. So, are the signals that we're seeing, the praise for the court, the procedural fog, the polls, are they part of a strategy for survival with Donald Trump? Or are they the first moves in a plan for survival without him? Which of those paths are we already on?